My name is Alexa Figarigan. My gamer tag is Wolfpack, and I'm currently stationed at Nellis Air Force Base. I'm actually a unit training manager. I'm a cross trainee. I just cross trained last year, actually. I was prior medical logistics, so I was a 4A1. And now I am a 3F2. I'm a training manager for the comm squadron right now at Nellis. So I'm basically in charge of just everybody's upgrade training, annual trainings that we do, CBTs, all that stuff. I'm pretty much the commander's right-hand man for anything training related. All the way back, I started gaming. My first gaming console was, I believe it was a GameCube. I was playing a lot of Mario Kart and all that stuff. I had pretty much every PlayStation from PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4, except for PS5, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I also did all the Game Boys, went from the Game Boy to the Nintendo DS, played a lot of Pokemon. I did have an Xbox 360 at one point, but then I went back to PlayStation, switched over to gaming PCs about, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, when I was trying to get a PS5 and, COVID was happening. We couldn't really get it. A friend of mine talked me into getting a gaming PC, and I've loved it ever since. I think the first game I played in the PS1 was Twisted Metal. I don't know if you remember that game. That was the first game that I ever played in the PS1, and I just fell in love with it. And then, COD came out, and that's when I started getting into shooter games. I'm also very into role-playing games. I think my favorite RPG is Kingdom Hearts. That was also one of the games that I religiously played. I did go back to Fortnite because of the no build mode. It's also a way for me to kind of bond with my siblings. Played Valorant for a little bit, wasn't really into it, but now I'm just kind of enjoying casual gaming. The whole point of this setup was because I wanted to get into streaming. However, because being in the military, life does catch up on you. We do lose track of time and stuff like that. We get very busy. This is actually a dual setup. Behind me to the left is my wife's setup as well. It's kind of like a reflection of mine. So you see how mine is white and black? Hers is actually black top and then white drawers. The setup is very inspired heavily by TikTok influencers. When COVID first started and I was into TikTok, the only thing that showed up on my For You page was gamers, streamers, and all of that. And that's when I really started getting into like, oh, I want to build my own setup. This setup was actually inspired by he's like 19 years old, but his name's Lo. Heavily inspired by Lo. We moved here about a year ago. My main goal was to make a setup very similar to his, just because I loved the way it looked. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get into streaming. But like I said, life catches up to you, things happen. And that was just kind of put on pause. I've been really focusing more on making video content and putting that out there, just because it's something that I've always loved to do. I've always been into photography, videography, and all that stuff. When I got into the whole gaming scene with PCs and stuff, I played a lot of, like I said, I played a lot of Warzone with friends and everything, and that's when I was like, you know what, I want to get into streaming, but I didn't really know where to start. And then I was just scrolling through the Air Force portal one day, and I saw that the Air Force had a gaming league, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like, I want to know more. So I got into it, and then that's when I found the Discord channel, and I actually have made a lot of friends in the AFG Discord, looking for teammates and stuff to play with. Once COVID kind of died down a little bit, everybody got back into, their normal routine. Nobody is really on the game anymore. So having the Air Force Gaming League Discord and stuff, you can just go on there and like, hey, I'm looking for somebody to play with, and 1 or 2 people will at least hit you up. That's pretty much how I got into it. PCSing itself is hard. Making new friends is hard. To have a community like that where you can just say, hey, like I'm PCSing here in a few months. I was wondering, like, where do you guys think is like the best area to live? If anybody is also like in the same time zone, like, hey, let's run some games. If it's a good resilience, resource, especially with the amount of stress that we go through in the military, making, having that community, having that support, even when you don't think that you have it, they're there.